Chazal say, Chamisha dvarim iru b'shivasa v'tamuz v'chamisha b'tisha B'Av. Rav David Small asked me a good question a while back. One of the tzaras of Shivasa B'Tamuz was Nishtabru Haluchos. Wouldn't it have been more appropriate that the Chet HaEgel happened on Shivasa B'Tamuz, not Shviras Haluchos? I was thinking the following. The Luchos had 5 dibros on one side and 5 dibros on the other side. The number 10 is a totality, something that's a unit together. And the 5 on one side represent the causes, and the 5 on the other side represent the results, meaning the following. Anochi Hashem Elok, you substitute Gashmius in this world that leads to Losinaf. Losinaf is a taiva, is Chumras Hagashmi. So the cause of Losinaf is Lo Yiyalecha. That's why it says, Lo Ovdu Es Ha'egel, El Lahatir Lem Arayis Befarhesya. One leads to the other. Lo Sisa, if you use the Rabbanu Shalom's name in an improper way, then you're going to end up using people's property in an improper way. Take things that are not yours and use them in a way that you're not allowed to use them. That causes a person to use other people's property. So lo sisa is a cause for lo signov. Shmira Shabbos, if you don't keep Shabbos and you give false testimony, you don't testify that the Rabbanu Shem created the world, it's going to lead you to give false testimony against your neighbor. So Zocher Shem HaShabbos is a cause of Losanya. Kibbut Avoim is a cause of Losachmod. If you don't know your place and you don't respect your elders and you don't know where you came from and you don't appreciate who you are, you're going to dafka be jealous and want to be other people. So the 5 on the right, they are the causes of the 5 on the left. Same thing over here. The 5 things that happened on Shivasar B'Tamuz are causes and the results of the 5 things that happened on Tisha B'Av. That's Bein HaMitzarim. There's one Meitzer, one Gevul of causes, and then another Gevul of results. Shviras Haluchos represented the fact that they lost trust in the Rabbanu Shalom, and they put too much trust in Moshe Rabbeinu as an intermediary. And when you don't trust the Rabbanu Shalom, and you put too much trust in Kochi Votzim Yodi, into a Moshe Rabbeinu, that led to the Chet HaMeraglim. That was the Chet HaMeraglim. So Shviras Haluchos on Shivasa B'Tamuz was a cause of the result of Churban of Chet HaMeraglim. Huamat Selem is Avodah Zarah, was a cause of the Churban of Bayis Rishon. Bayis Rishon was Nechra because of Gili Araya, Shvichas Dam and Avodah Zarah. Hov Kaha'ir, when the city of Yerushalayim was broken into, that was a cause eventually of the Churban of Nechra Shaha'ir. Finished it off completely. Plowed it over. Bittul HaTamid is Bittul of Korbanos, which is the Achdus of Klal Yisrael, led to the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash, which was destroyed because of the lack of Achdus, of Sinas Chinam. Sreifas HaTorah and Shivasa B'Tamuz, which is the idea that Torah is the foundation of Ruchnius in Klal Yisrael. It's the foundation of our Ummah. Einu Moseinu Ummah Ela B'Torasa, says Rav Savdi Gaon. And that led to the Churban of Beitar. What was Beitar? Beitar Bar Kochva said that they didn't mourn anymore for the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash because they had a Malchus. Under Bar Kochva, they were minting coins. They had Atzmaut. And instead of understanding what really was lost by the Beis HaMikdash, the Ruchnius, They thought that the accoutrements of Gashmias, being free people in their own land, that would take the place. And therefore the Shreifas HaTorah led to Churban of Beitar. So those 5 things that happened on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz were causes, whereas the 5 things that happened on Tisha B'Av were results. Many Churbanos happened in Klal Yisrael, but the Churbanos that revolved around the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash were the 5 things that happened on Tisha B'Av. All of them had a kesher to Churban Habayis. The 5 things that caused them are the things that happened on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. Chet HaEgel was a Churban to itself. Doesn't fit in to this Bichlal. And that's why on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz we have slichus and vidui in order to correct the causes. But on Tisha B'Av there's no slichos and there's no vidui, because now we mourn the results from those causes. The Nesivis in Lechem Dima says that's the whole Eicha is built on that. The whole Eicha, every pasuk tells us the Churban, and it tells us the reason, the cause also. This year we're going to speak about these 10 things, all 10 of them. I've picked 10 kinnos that, in my estimation, have a kesher with each of these 10 things, and we'll speak about them in detail. I hope not too great detail, because this year I really like to finish before Chatzos. We'll see what the causes were, what the results were, and how we can be masak in all of them in order that next year we will not have to be here saying kinnos. The first Kinna is Shavas, Kinna Vav. If you have these small books of kinnos, it's on page 47. This Kinna I want to relate to the Tzara of Nechra Ha'ir, where the Romans came. They weren't satisfied of destroying the Beis HaMikdash. They weren't satisfied of putting us into Golus, but they had to plow over the city and destroy it completely, which is the representation of Sinas Yisrael, Antisemitism. L'chu v'nachide migoy, lo yizocher shem Yisrael od. The sina that Goyim have to utterly destroy every vestige of every remembrance of Klal Yisrael. And in this Kinna, it mentions that idea, says, Schi u'mo'os samuni Schi u'mo'os samuni ve'edrei chaverai. They made us into disgusting schi u'mo'os, sinos hagoyim. What causes anti-Semitism? Why nechra ha'ir? Why are goyim interested, many goyim, in destroying us completely? So Chazal say, halacha l'Moshe miSinai, Esav Soni es Yaakov. Halacha means halichos olam. It's part of the way of the world. Al tikrei halichos ela halachos. Halachos are halichos olam. It's the way of the world. It's what the nature of the world is. That's halacha. Halacha l'Moshe miSinai. Many reasons what that means. One idea is that the Rebbeinu Shalom put into the world a safety. In order, it says that Sinai, Misham Yorda Sina Le'umos Ha'olam. One way of understanding it is that the whole sina that Goyim have for us originated when we received the Torah. Since we are supposed to be a Mamleches Kohanim v'Goy Kadosh, we received the Torah to be an Am Segula. We have a tremendous mission in this world. And the only way we can fulfill that mission is if we stay insulated from the rest of the world. Am levadad yishkon, uvagoyim lo yishchashav. We have to maintain our yichud, that which is special about us. And in order to do that, we have to be insulated from the world, not isolated, because we're supposed to be an or lagoyim. We're supposed to impress the world and inspire them and influence them. But if we mix with them totally, then we'll lose our yichud and we'll all come to the lowest common denominator. They're also important people, but they only have to keep 7 mitzvahs. They only have to be moral. They don't have to be holy. And if we mix with them totally without any insulation, then we're going to descend to be moral, halavai, but not holy. In order to protect this insulation, the Rebbe Shalom created a surface tension. Sina, we mentioned this a few times, not only now but later also. Sina does not necessarily mean hatred. I hate your guts. Sina means there's a separation. You don't feel totally together with the thing that you hate. The proof by Leah says, Vayehav Rachel mi Leah. Yaakov Avinu loved Rachel more than Leah. And the next pasuk says, Vayar Hashem ki snua Leah. He didn't hate her, just didn't love her as much as he loved Rachel. So why does the Torah say snua? Because if you can love someone more and you're a little bit distant, that's called sina. That distance can lead to the feeling of hatred. But that's not what sina is in its essence. It's a separation. Misham yarda sina la'olam. That separation between Goyim and Yidden, which the Rebbe Shalom put into the Bria. It's like Chazal say, we are compared to oil and the Goyim are compared to water. As long as the oil floats on top of the water supports the oil and the oil protects the water. We can coexist very nicely with the nations of the world, like oil and water. But if you try to mix the oil into the water, it can't remain like that. The water pressure pushes the oil out. As Rav Chaim Volozhiner says, we have 2 choices. Either we make Kiddush or the Goy makes Havdalah. Either we sanctify ourselves and stay on top like oil on water, then we'll be fine. But if we try to assimilate into that water, then the Goy will make Havdalah. The water pressure will push us out, and that has been our history, whether it was in Mitzrayim, whether it was in Spain or Germany. And that's what Yosef was koveya, the first Golus in Mitzrayim, when he presented his brothers before Paro. He told them, when Paro will ask you what you do for a living, so you would think, since Toavas Mitzrayim Kol Roei Tzol, the Egyptians abominated shepherds, Yosef would have given his brothers good advice. Take a shower, clean your clothes, and make sure you don't smell from sheep. And when Paro asks you what you do for a living, you should say that you never saw a sheep in your life. You don't know what it means to be a shepherd. You're blacksmiths. You're something else in this world, but you're not shepherds. What did Yosef tell his brothers? When Paro will ask you what you do for a living, you should say, Roei tzon anachnu. We're shepherds. Gam anachnu, gam avoseinu. We always were shepherds. We don't know anything else except being shepherds. Why? In order they should put you in Goshen. Because Toavas Mitzrayim Kol Roei Tzon. If you want to stay in Golus properly, you can't assimilate with the nations of the world. Let them separate you in a nice way. When they lived in Goshen and they didn't try to assimilate into the rest of Egypt, everything was fine. When the things become bad, when they started going to the Egyptian circuses, they started assimilating with the Egyptians. Then Vayokom Melech Chodesh. And that's what Yosef told his brothers. I'm going to tell Paro, Achayu Beis Avi, Asher Be'eretz Canaan Bo Elai. My brothers and my father's family who are in Eretz Canaan came to me. Doesn't make sense. They can't be in Eretz Canaan and be here at the same time. What it should have said is, Asher Me Eretz Canaan Bo Elai. They came from Eretz Canaan and they're here. And in fact, when he told Paro, that's what he said. Bo Elai Me Eretz Canaan. But to his brothers he said, no. You still are in Eretz Canaan. You are to transport a little bit of Eretz Canaan into Mitzrayim. You're not to live with the Goyim, just amongst them. You're still in Eretz Canaan, except you've transported Eretz Canaan into Mitzrayim. And that's how a Jew has to live. The Meiri says, the Rishus in this world is like a Yam, and the way to escape it is a boat. The Chora on the surface doesn't make sense. You can't escape the Yam in a boat. The boat can only exist on the Yam. Should have said the way to escape the Yam is a amphibious craft. You get out of the Yam and you go on the dry land. Now the answer is you can't escape the Rishus. It's everywhere. It's in New York. It's in Monsey. It's in Brooklyn. It's even in Yerushalayim and Mea Shearim. It's everywhere. Everywhere. Can't escape it. So how can you protect yourself? Like a Sfina. A Sfina is amongst the Yam, but it's not with it, because it's insulated from the Yam. That's how a Jew has to live in Golus. And therefore, to a certain degree, that Shina that the Rebbeinu Shalom put into the world is for our benefit. It's in order that we should be able to maintain our yichud, what we are special about us, the fact that we're an Am Segula. Bring down that the Meir Mipar Mishlan once asked somebody, why do you think they named the parish in the Torah after Balak? So he explained to him the following. He said, Balak was a goy. Do you think Balak was an Erlich goy or not an Erlich goy? This person said, I guess he was not an Erlich goy, right? He wanted to destroy Klal Yisrael and curse them. He said, no, he was an Erlich goy. Why? Because the tafkid of a goy is to keep us in place. So he did his tafkid. He was an Erlich goy. The goyim who make believe that they like us or whatever, they're not Erlich Yid. They're not Erlich goyim. But Balak was an Erlich goy. For an Erlich goy, name a parsha of him also. Second idea, why there's anti-Semitism. Another pshat in Misham Yorda Sina Le'umos Ha'olam. They're jealous. There's a certain resistance that Tuma has to Kedusha. It's a fact of life. And the Goyim are jealous of the role that we are supposed to play. They don't want to perform that role. Bilam said, Tomos Nafshi Mos Yisharim. I'd like to die like a Jew. But to live like a Jew, forget it. But they're jealous. They'd like to be what we are. Hitler, Yamach Shemo, said that he blames the Jews. Part of the foundation of his Sinas Yisrael, his terrible anti-Semitism, was that he hates the Jews because they gave the world a conscience, which is as much a pagam as bris milah is to the body. That's what he said. There's a certain resistance that Tuma has to Tahara, that they resent and they hate. Mamish, a separation again from what we are supposed to be. Years ago, there was a terrible tragedy here on Hoshana Rabbah was the first Intifada, I think. And they set up a booby trap. Some people came back to pick up their car. Motzei Shabbos, Hoshana Rabbah was Motzei Shabbos, and they detonated a bomb. And the car went on fire, and everybody was able to get out except one woman. She was killed. Every year we have a Hoshana Rabbah, a Shir, Le'ilu Nishmosa. And that Simchas Torah obviously was a difficult Simchas Torah. So I found the Medrash. The Medrash says like this: what is part of the Simcha of Simchas Torah? The Medrash says the entire 7 days of Sukkot we bring korbanos for the Umos HaOlam. Ad Kedei Kach, the Chazal say that if the Goyim would know how much the Beis HaMikdash benefited them, they wouldn't have destroyed it, they would have put guards to protect it. We do everything to protect the nations of the world. Comes the end of Sukkot and they still hate us. So that's a reason to be happy. That's a reason to be happy. Well, the idea is that after 7 days of doing everything for the Goyim, it can't be our fault. All the natural reasons for hating us don't apply. So it can't be our fault. There must be something beyond rationale why they hate us. They hate us because we're special. That's a reason to be happy. An interesting story. Most of these stories I'm going to tell you are from the book Sparks of Majesty by Genendel Krohn. She's a daughter-in-law of Pesach Krohn. She was also a Talmida of mine many years ago in Seminary Shalayim, and her mother was the principal in the Beis Yaakov in Miami. This is Gibber. Brings on a Maisa here of the Potiker Rav. The Rebbe was once involved in breaking up a forbidden union. A distraught father approached him, begging him to stop his son's marriage. Have you made an engagement party yet? Party? I'm thinking of sitting Shiva. Listen carefully, the Rebbe instructed. Reserve a nice party place. Throw a big party. Make sure to buy lots of whiskey and wine and serve it generously. Shrugging his shoulders in resignation, the man followed instructions. The bride's family attended the festivities, and the alcohol flowed like water. At one point, the groom accidentally bumped into the bride's uncle. Dirty Jew, the inebriated man snarled. The groom was shocked as he came to the realization that this marriage was not for him. The engagement was swiftly canceled. The jubilant father returned to the Rebbe. It's a miracle. How did you do it? The Rebbe smiled. Chazal tell us that a person's true nature comes out bekiso, when matters affect his wallet, bekaiso when he's angry, and bekoso with his cup, which means when he's drunk. If you want to get down to the surface and hear what those goyim think really of you, besides the fact that they're accepting you into their family, when he's drunk, he reveals his inner feelings of dirty Jew. Another reason, Rav Chil Yaakov Weinberg, Sridei Eish, says that we can't avoid admitting that we're a little bit guilty in causing Shinos HaGoyim. Because of the Chilul Hashem that we make in the eyes of the Goyim, partly because we don't assume a low profile in Golus. We take very important places in commerce and politics and we stand out and we cause tremendous jealousy. Not like the Sanhedrin told Achashverosh when he asked them what he should do with Vashti. They said from the time he went into Golus, we don't have the ability anymore to paskin dinei nefashos. They kept out of the Inyan that didn't affect them. Don't tell the Goyim what to do. Don't tell that, because in the end you're going to end up suffering no matter what it is. In addition, the Svarim say that we live luxurious lives in the eyes of the Goyim and cause their jealousy. We build palaces amongst them. And they're jealous. We wear fancy clothing. And Goyim are jealous of these rich Jews who control the world. And also, we deal with Goyim, with Gaiva and Alnios. We don't treat them properly. So to a certain degree, we are to blame for that anti-Semitism. If we would keep a low profile, do what we're supposed to do, and be an Am Segula, whatever, the hatred would be less. Chazal say, another reason, sometimes there are Jews shemisnagim lokim mesukonim bohem elekim mukukolim bohem. We don't even act like the good goyim. We act worse than the worst goyim. We are the ones who are at the forefront of the znus of Hollywood. Communism, Jews were the ones to take up the communism, nationalism. And we're megare b'umos ha'olam. We start up with them because we think that that's going to bring Jewish pride. Right? We are going to stand up for Jewish pride, especially here in Eretz Yisrael, when they don't realize that by starting up with the Goyim, we may increase Jewish pride, but we may put Jewish life into danger. I had a Maisa personally, years and years ago in New York. I had gone to New York from Miami for a dinner. I got off the plane, got onto a bus that dropped me off outside of Borough Park, the fringes of Borough Park, which was mostly, at that time, mostly occupied by Puerto Ricans. And I saw there was a tremendous gathering with the press, radio, television, some big gathering around a public school. And I asked somebody, what's going on? And they said some Jewish boys from a certain group, which I won't mention the name, there was a lot of fire bombings of shuls in the area recently, and they decided to avenge Jewish honor. So they took 2 Puerto Ricans, just by chance. These weren't people who were responsible for firebombing the shuls, but some, they were Puerto Ricans. So they beat them up. And that way they thought that they would avenge the fire bombings of the shul. And they had this whole gathering to protest the fact that 2 innocent Puerto Ricans were beaten up by these Jews. So I heard this, and I tried to walk around this gathering. And all of a sudden I see that there are 4 Puerto Ricans surrounding me, 1 on each side, with an iron pole in their hands. First I said maybe this is an honor guard that they sent to welcome me into New York. It clearly became not that very quickly. The leader of the group tells me, your friends beat up our friends. So I said, I don't have any friends here in Brooklyn. I come from Miami. He said, well, you're not going to get back to Miami. Okay. I started saying Tehillim under my breath, at the same time speaking to them. So I said, really, I don't know. I'm not from here. I don't know what happened. Tell me what happened. Who are my friends that beat up your friends? Who are your friends? And I kept them engaged in conversation. And Baruch Hashem, they couldn't do 2 things at the same time. They couldn't beat my brains in and talk to me at the same time. So we were talking and going into this whole incident. And then we came to a corner. And I said, it's been very nice talking to you, but I have to go the other way now. And that was it. They kept going straight. I turned, and as soon as I got out of their sight, I ran as fast as I ever could run in my life. I could have probably made a medal, right, in the Olympics. So here are people that want to avenge Jewish honor and put Jewish life into danger. Another thing that's mentioned is that we spend too much time talking about anti-Semitism, too much time talking about the Holocaust, and we think that by doing that we will generate a certain amount of the Goyim will have Rachmanis on us. They'll feel bad for us. But the truth is that sometimes it becomes so overblown that it has the opposite effect. The joke they say, person was complaining of the fact that he interviewed for a job to be a radio correspondent, radio broadcaster. And he was complaining of the fact that they turned him down, they didn't give him the job. The person asked him, did you prepare yourself for the interview? He said, yes, I prepared myself very, very, very well. He said, did you know the subject that you were supposed to present? Yes, I knew the subject. He said, why did they reject you? Anti-Semitism. Rabbi Moshe Scheinerman, in his Sefer Ohel Wosk, says there's a tremendous difference between the Sina that Esav has, the Christian world, and the Sina that Yishmael has, the Muslim world, the Klal Yisrael. It's a whole arichos which we're not going to go into. But basically what he says is the Notzrim who come from Esav don't hate us be'etzem. They hate our ruchnius, they hate our nefesh, because they think that we usurped what really belongs to them ruchnius-wise. But they don't hate us physically. They only kill us physically because of their religion. Because Esav Lamaisa also got a Yerusha. And he also was considered not Zera Avraham, but he was the son of Avraham, and the Rebbeinu Shem gave him Har Seir as Yerusha. So Esav can put up with the fact that we exist. But Yishmael was never given Yerusha, ki goresh es ben ho'amo hazos lo yirash im Yitzchak b'ni. And therefore, they have to maintain that we are not even B'nei Avraham. They in their Quran say that Yitzchak Avinu, Afro Lepumayu, was impregnated by, Sarah was impregnated by Avimelech, and he is a son of Avimelech and not a son of Avram. That's what they believe. And Akedas Yitzchak was not Akedas Yitzchak, it was Akedas Yishmael. That's the case, it should have been brought to its completion. So they have to be kofar in our mitzias. So they want to destroy us physically, whereas the Notzrim only want to destroy our faith and not our mitzias. The only problem is Amalek seems to be Amalek comes from Esav. And Amalek wants to destroy us completely. But the truth is, without going into detail, the reason Amalek wants to destroy us completely is because they're kofar be'ikr. Unlike other Goyim that are just over the Avodah Zarah. But Goyim who are kofar be'ikr totally deny any importance to Klal Yisrael. Because our importance is that we're close to the Rabbanu Shalom and we have a Torah that guides us. If you believe in God, even if you believe in Avodah Zarah, those two things have some place in your lexicon. But if you don't believe in anything, then those two things are meaningless. So Klal Yisrael are totally meaningless. So Amalek is an exception to Esav. Esav, most are over the Avodah Zarah. They're kofrim be'ikr, and therefore they also deny any importance to Klal Yisrael. So if we would live in a better way, that the Goyim should be able to see that we live up to what we're supposed to be, then the only sinas Yisrael would be a resentment, would be that sina that keeps us separate. But when we don't live up to that, and we cheat, and we lie, and we do things to Goyim that are not proper, the Ber HaGola says that part of the tzoros the Klal Yisrael have is because we steal from the Goyim and we cheat them, and that gives them a reason to hate us also. And if we wouldn't do that, he said, there are many people who are honest, even with Goyim, and they had the children and doros, and lived in peace and tranquility. So that is this first Kinna, Keneged Nechresh Ha'ir, the idea of L'chu v'nachide migoy v'lo yizocher Shem Yisrael od. And if we understand the roots of anti-Semitism, and we work to be able to make them as positive as possible, not the negative, and to live in a way that we don't cause more anti-Semitism, then in Mirz Hashem we'll be mesaken this one kind of churban, the churban of Sinas Yisrael. Shavas.
The following topic is sponsored by